It's insane how many great movies are coming out this year. The Irishman is directed by Martin Scorsese and stars Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, and Al Pacino. This is just a recipe for a great movie. A little bit of backstory before we get into my thoughts on The Irishman. So Martin Scorsese was trying to pitch this movie that he wrote to a bunch of different studios, and it's a 3.5-hour long crime epic. So a lot of studios didn't really think that it might be worth their while. He wanted a really big budget. And unfortunately, if the movie isn't Ocean's 8 or Captain Marvel or any other trash that all of our movie studios are peddling these days, they won't do it. They would pass out Martin Scorsese, pretty much one of the greatest directors of all time, if not the greatest working director today. So the streaming service Netflix picked it up. They gave Martin Scorsese a blank check to do with as he wished, and he just got to make a pure Martin Scorsese crime epic film, and it is just fantastic. The first thing that catches your eye about The Irishman, not only does it have Martin Scorsese's name on it, but it has some of the actors that he's worked with over the years. We have Robert De Niro returning. We have Joe Pesci. Joe Pesci was in retirement, and he wasn't really planning on coming back and acting in anything. So the fact that he came back to play a very central role in Martin Scorsese's newest movie, that was just a great thing to see him in this movie. He did a great job, and they did a really cool job of de-aging him in some points and then making him look ridiculously friggin' old towards the end. That was really cool. And then we also have Robert De Niro, which I'm not particularly sure, but I think that Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese might have teamed up the most out of any other actor with Martin Scorsese in any of his movies. And he just brings it in this movie. It's a very different performance. They also de-aged him in many scenes, and they just made it look really, really great. There were some scenes of him back in World War II where they took out all the wrinkles on his face, and it looks great. He also has some amazing scenes, and it's not like he's young Robert De Niro showing a ton of emotion. Hey, what do you want from me? Yeah. But he is just a little bit more reserved, and he has a lot more subtleties in his performance. There are a lot of parts in this movie where he's an elderly man, so he just has a lot of mumbling parts, and you just kind of feel just him aging throughout the movie, because in this 3.5-hour movie, part of the movie is just seeing these people from where they started to where they end up. And it just crosses a lot of years. It's really hard, actually, for old guys to be crawling back into movies and give it their all. A lot of times when they come into movies, they kind of, half-ass it. But Robert De Niro did a great job. And then Al Pacino, who plays Jimmy Hoffa in this movie, he did a great job playing Jimmy Hoffa. The type of energy that Al Pacino brought to the performance, it just made me feel like, okay, this is like a very charismatic guy who would be kind of the head of a labor union who's winning over all these workers. Seeing him with Martin Scorsese, I think Martin Scorsese really brought out the best in Al Pacino, and then also channeled those parts of Al Pacino's, very loud performances in just the right moments, and I thought that his performance was great in this movie. The acting in this movie alone makes the 3.5-hour long runtime just all the more worth it, but it's just the beginning of all the great elements that Martin Scorsese put into this movie. Martin Scorsese's films always just have such a great editing style. If you watch Goodfellas or Wolf of Wall Street, it is just, this bam, 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 fast-paced movie that's really, really long, but you're being dragged through these main character shenanigans all the way through, and you're just like jumping from piece to piece. You can barely catch your breath. But the editing in The Irishman is a little bit different from those two movies. This movie is kind of being told from old Robert De Niro's perspective, so it kind of plays out like an old story. You're kind of getting all these details about this person's life through dealing with the mob and then also going to work for Jimmy Hoffa. The movie just isn't afraid to take its time. And let me stop you right there. Before you think that it's slow and it's 3.5 hours long, it's not really like slow, like boring slow. It's very, very interesting with the timing that he takes in his scenes. All the pauses are there for a purpose. They're used to develop the characters, to help you as an audience see what the characters are thinking without even having to say a word. And with these quiet moments, you get to know these characters so much more than if you just heard them talk for 3.5 hours long. And this movie also has a lot of points where it picks up a lot. We have Robert De Niro, who plays the hitman Frank Sheeran, and he worked for Jimmy Hoffa, and he did a lot of shady things for Jimmy Hoffa. And then you'll also see him working for the Buffalino family. Sorry for my pronunciation, but that's the best you're going to get. And he does a lot of hits for that family as well, and those moments are just jaw-droppingly suspenseful. There's a lot of build-up for these hits that Frank does, and one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie, he sets out all of his guns on the bed and he's going through the mental process of taking down which guns he doesn't need for this hit that he's going to do. And it's just so fascinating, him describing what all these different guns and how he would use them specifically, or what they're good for, what they're not good for. That's one of my favorite scenes of the whole movie. And if I didn't mention it before, the lighting in this movie, the cinematography is gorgeous. The shading of people, the lighting, and the shadows that he uses are just amazing. I can talk forever about The Irishman, how much I liked it. There's just so much that I loved, but you guys should check it out. It's on Netflix, so if you have a Netflix account or you have someone else's Netflix account, check it out. The nice thing about this movie being 3.5 hours long and it being on Netflix is you don't have to sit down in a theater for 3.5 hours long and sit there with your legs crossed because you don't want to leave and you just are about to pee your pants in your seat. You can pause it, go to the bathroom in your own house, sit back down, or if you get tired, you can go to bed, pick it up the next day. You can just do that. Watch it like a mini-series. Just do that. This movie is great. You should check it out whenever you can. I've already watched it twice in the last 3 days, and I loved it the first time and I loved it the second time. It did not lose any bit of its potency the second time I watched it, and I look forward to watching it many more times. The Irishman is a masterpiece. Thank you guys for stopping by and watching my video. I'm going to be working on a Martin Scorsese ranked video. I did a Quentin Tarantino ranked video a little while back, so I thought that was a lot of fun to do, so I'll have a lot of fun putting together my list for the best Martin Scorsese movies. But if you have already watched The Irishman, comment down below. Tell me what you loved about The Irishman. Try to leave out the spoilers so we can all have a good conversation down there without having the movie spoiled for us. So comment down below. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Please leave a like on this video, subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified of all my new content. Also, follow me on Instagram at Jared Gilster. You'll be able to know when I'm going to be releasing all of my new content beforehand, and I'll see you guys next time.